Welcome to Season 4 of the Agile Brand with Greg Kielstrom, where we discuss business agility through customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation. I'm your host, Greg Kielstrom. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at gregkielstrom.com and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, now available on Amazon and other retailers. My name is Greg Kielstrom, and I'm the host of the Agile Brand podcast. Today, we're going to talk about continually shifting consumer expectations and how brands need to adapt in this world where customer experience is increasingly a point of competition. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Kiel Harkness, VP of Global Marketing and Development at UPS Capital. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg. Glad to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to talking with you. And why don't we start by you giving a little background on yourself, as well as what you're currently doing at UPS Capital.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. So as you stated, I have the pleasure of having marketing responsibilities for UPS Capital. UPS Capital is a fully owned subsidiary of UPS. And just a little bit about us, we kind of singularly focus on insurance in the supply chain. We've got a background. We used to do some trade finance and a little asset-based lending, and we were playing in some different areas. We've really brought the focus now to serving small and medium businesses, primarily maybe $1 million to $100 million a turnover in the supply chain, for their insurance needs and increasingly for their CX customer experience needs.
Great. Well, let's start by talking about consumer expectations and the race to provide better customer experience. So UPS Capital recently put out a report based on your holiday small and medium-sized business survey. In it says 82% of customers expect free shipping and returns over discounts on their purchases. Additionally, 45% of consumers expect fast 1 to 2 day shipping as a result of the Amazon effect. These two figures alone point to the idea that it's increasingly a buyer's market where companies who can't compete on some of these expectations may fall behind. How does a small or medium company, essentially a non-Amazon, how do they stay ahead?
The first thing they've got to kind of really rationalize is where do they want to compete if they select Amazon as their competitor, or really any of the kind of big retailers that are out there in that e-commerce space. So it wasn't surprising for us to see that 82% of customers expected free shipping, and a lot of consumers really are motivated by discounts. I think that's a theme that we weren't surprised by, and nor do I think our small and medium customer base would be surprised by. So there are areas I think that SMBs can and probably should, and in some ways have to compete, though, in this e-commerce space, because of the pervasiveness of big retailers and trying to capture those consumer dollars. The key thing in picking where to compete is really what partners small and medium businesses in e-commerce want to select, right? We call this in our business the partner imperative. I think there's a really nice narrative that's been out there forever around small and medium businesses kind of building their business out of their own sweat and just brick by brick building up that business and doing it all alone. And I think right now with the landscape of retail and e-commerce the way it is, that's just simply not an option. And for SMBs to compete, when we talk about fast shipping, when we talk about ways to kind of position your product differently, maybe through discounting, there are partners they should select. So let's talk about that fast shipping one, right? Because I think what fast shipping certainly does is tells the consumer on the end, hey, I can pick something like fast shipping, and that's really important to me, and I'm more likely to buy from a business who offers fast shipping. Okay. Believe it or not, like just offering choices to consumers on shipping speed matters. And that was not that long ago, very difficult for a small or medium business to integrate into their checkout. But the reality is this: look, a small and medium business, when they're smart and they're selective and they're partner imperative, they can go into a platform like Shopify. They can go to a shipping technology like a Stamps.com, a Shippo, and very seamlessly and without a lot of friction, they can integrate really sophisticated fulfillment options that me as a consumer, I go to the smaller medium business, I click the product that I want, and I'm served up this amazing kind of shipping option. Hey, I can get it next day, 2 days, I can get an economy service. And I think while it's not going to solve for free shipping necessarily, when you just look at that shipping paradigm, there are options that the right partners that SMBs pick with respect to fulfillment can really help them catch up there.
Yeah, and in addition to the shipping thing, a lot of the opportunity in customer experience is how things are handled when something unexpected or unfortunate happens. So things like lost packages, damage, delays. The UPS survey I mentioned previously found that over 26% of small and medium-sized businesses are concerned about lost, broken, or stolen packages. How can these smaller organizations mitigate the worst outcomes in these situations?
Yeah, well, I think the businesses probably should be worried. You said 26, and that's kind of what our study said, as you know. But they arguably should be worried. We've had other surveys, Greg, where we looked out at, again, businesses from this one in particular, I'll reference, was 1 million to 50 million of turnover. And we talked to SMBs in kind of first half of 2021, and 80% of the businesses in e-commerce we talked to had seen an increase in the number of shipping mishaps. So lost, stolen, or damaged packages. And of those, significantly more than half of them said, hey, when there's a shipping mishap, it's bad enough that I've got to go file a claim. Right. So, and then more than half of those, so we're still talking about really big numbers, statistically, when we think of all the merchants out there selling in e-commerce, more than half of them said, when I get into that claim scenario, something truly measurably bad happens to my business. Right. Half of them told us, it hits my bottom line. So I lose a sale, I lose a customer. And also more than half of them told us, look, I get reputational damage when something goes wrong, a lost, broken, or stolen package. And that reputational damage impacts my customer loyalty metrics, repeat purchases. So there is a big focus, I think, that in a reasonable and a rightful kind of focus that we see increasingly these small and medium businesses in e-commerce are putting on when something goes wrong with shipping.
Back to a little bit about the first question, is from a small business perspective, is competing with Amazon, or you can replace Amazon, really, to your point, with any large retailer. To a small business, they may seem just unattainable and monolithic, but is that even the right way of thinking? What are some of the ways where a small business actually has a leg up on larger competitors?
Yeah, so there's probably two ways to peel that back. And Greg, we talked to consumers specifically about, like, why would they shop with SMBs on e-commerce? And we were focused at that point during like the kind of big internet deal days that were happening. But what consumers told us is, look, there's three things that are going on why they want to shop with SMBs. And I think SMBs need to lean into this, right? First is, they said, actually, we feel like we're actually helping the business when we shop with them. And that there's that personalization of the experience, which is important, I think, for consumers, and SMBs need to be aware of that. And the other two things that consumers said is, what, I get better service, better customer service, and I get better product quality. So SMBs have got to lean into that if they're going to compete, again, if you say with Amazon or any of the big ones. But there are other areas, Greg, that I think are within reach where they can really start leveling the playing field against the big guys, but also kind of create some differentiation within their more traditional competitor set of small and medium businesses. And when we look at the space right now, we think a lot has been done to help SMBs win, as it relates to the shopping experience. So, the Shopifys of the world, a small, medium business can put up a beautiful web shop, right? In not a lot of time. And it looks and feels a lot like even the best retail experiences on the shopping side. You got Square or I guess Block out there and other payment options, which make, that checkout cart super slick, super intuitive. You can pay with multiple currencies. And there's a lot, I talked about the fulfillment options, integrating shopping. So there's a lot going on there where SMBs can win and kind of level up against big retail, but where we see a real and emerging opportunities post-purchase, right? So a lot of attention helping SMBs level up and that kind of get the buyer from a browser to a buyer. But on that post-purchase, after the customers bought something, we think there's a lot of space for SMBs to kind of to take on new partnerships. And I think this ties right into like, look, I've landed the customer. I did everything right with designing my web shop, with getting the product shipped on time, with giving them all these options, and the customer paid how they liked. But now it's been shipped and something happened, right? Customers made the purchase and something's gone wrong. And right here, we think there's a big point in the meaningful point in that customer journey for the SMB to plan and have a solution, because 44% of consumers that we talked to said, when this happens, something went wrong. I love buying from the retailer, but it was shipped out and something went wrong and the business can't solve it and they can't solve it efficiently, they'll never buy from that business again. So we're talking about a lot of opportunities here to lose customers if SMBs aren't planning and have a plan to solve in that post-purchase, time frame for when something goes wrong with the shipment. And we think that insurance fits really well and very powerfully into the customer experience for that post-purchase journey.
Well, we're recording the show shortly after the holiday shipping season, which is always busy. According to that UPS Capital survey I mentioned earlier, 80% of small and medium businesses are worried about the impact of inflation on their holiday sales this year, among other things. So, adding inflation to supply chain issues and more, there are a lot of challenges out there, right? So, how should small and medium businesses be thinking in terms of how they can counter some of these big issues in 2022?
Yeah, I think the inflation story is out there and we'll kind of let the economists solve that one. I mean, whether it's transitory or long term, I think the one thing I would say for SMBs is it's pervasive. And I don't think that there's really one SMB that's going to solve it that much differently than another. So I think that that's kind of pervasive and out there and is equal pressure on most businesses. I mean, there's just other areas that SMBs are going to have to tackle and focus on to create differentiation. We think, again, right now, customer experience is a good place for SMBs to focus on. We think really in that post-purchase space, whether it's getting smarter about the communications with their customers once the shipment's been shipped. So do I ship to you? Did I notify you when you ordered from me, when I've shipped it, when it's in transit, if there's an exception, when it's going to arrive to you? We think that's really important. Another thing that we think will drive CX and that SMBs can offer their customers, which could be a differentiator, is this virtual omni-channel experience, right? So just unpack this one for a second, Greg, but we know omni-channel gives consumers here, the US and all over the world, the seamless way to buy and pick up at their discretion and at their convenience. We think there's a great play for SMBs to start using services like access points or alternate delivery locations to give their customers in the post-purchase space flexibility to choose different places to receive packages. So do I want to receive it at my house, or maybe I want to pick it up around the corner at a shop? That type of post-purchase flexibility, we think, will drive a lot of loyalty and differentiation for an SMB.
And you mentioned some of the role of communication, but can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on how that can really play a positive role in customer experience as well as mitigating some negative experiences?
Yeah, I think when we think about how we kind of work with our customers on the communication piece, there's all the communications that go on when things are going right? So that's that, hey, thank you for your order is placed, and there's everything that follows while everything's going on. And I think you've got great post-purchase kind of communication tools for that. You think about Narvar or an after ship and they're out there, and SMBs can integrate them into their business and their checkout carts. Where communication we think has a big kind of gap in the customer experience, and we can get some improvements, is, well, what's the communication when something's gone wrong? What is it that the merchant, this SMB, is telling their customer? Hey, you've notified me the package was lost. You've notified me the package was stolen. Okay, now here's how that used to play out. Right now in that communication, I'm going to go back to the carrier. I'm going to go back to a local police department, and I'm going to begin a claims process, and I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be. And I need you, customer, to do this for me, that for me, A, B, C, D, E. And you have this whole communication chain that starts, that's not positive or valuable really for the merchant and the customer, versus having a communication line in that exact same instance that says, hey, valued customer, you've notified me that something's gone wrong. Your package is lost, stolen, or damaged. I want to tell you that we've reshipped your package. We've reshipped that shirt that you love so much, or that you were so excited and waiting for. It's on its way. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there in 2 days. Or, hey, you've told me that it was damaged. You no longer want to make the purchase. The reimbursement is on its way to you. It's being deposited back into your account. And that type of communication right now, we think is incredibly important and powerful for SMBs to bring to their customers, to level up against big retail, but also differentiate against other SMBs they might be competing against.
What have some of the successful small and medium businesses been doing to mitigate against, whatever it might be, fluctuations and unknown things that can improve both bottom line as well as customer expectations?
So I think I shared that stat. 44% of consumers had said when something's gone wrong, and if the business doesn't solve it for me, I'm never going to shop with them again. And another thing that consumers have told us, and they've told the businesses they buy from every day, 35% of them will say, like, if you just offer me a guarantee up front that you can fix a problem when something goes wrong, I'm much more likely to buy with you, and in fact, to become a repeat purchaser. So I think as a lot of businesses have seen and experienced this trend of increasing shipping mishaps. We haven't talked much today about port piracy, but that's certainly impacting the customer experience. We see businesses proactively implementing premium insurance options that empowers them to kind of give that Amazon-like customer experience to their customers, to say, hey, if something goes wrong, you call me, you let me know right away. I'm going to reship it to you within 24 to 48 hours. I'm going to refund you, within 24 to 48 hours. And that's driving a meaningful difference as a solution.
Well, one last question. Realizing we just made it through one busy holiday season, it might be difficult for a lot of businesses kind of recovering from that to think too far ahead. But let's talk a little bit about what businesses should be doing this year to prepare. What trends are you seeing that these small and medium-sized businesses should keep in mind as they navigate 2022 and even begin thinking about the next holiday season, even though it's a little far out?
So first, and we talk about this with our customers all the time, which is that partner imperative, which is to go out and assess who are you partnering with, small or medium business. You can't do all this alone. Integrating partners into your value stack is becoming a lot easier. And all that is a complicated way of saying it's a lot easier for small and medium businesses to go out and test things with a supplier, test things with another supplier. When you look at platforms like a BigCommerce, a Shopify, a Magento, they're enabling businesses to kind of pick and choose plug-in options from partners in very low lift ways to integrate into their business that just were not there before. And what that's really empowering small and medium businesses to do is to test more options out there on who's improving their business, who's helping them with their customer experience. When it's not right, disengage, decouple. A lot of times it's very simple now. You kind of decouple the API, you take out the webhooks and try another one. And we see, it's amazing. We see a lot of our customers who are looking at partners they integrated into their business years ago. They're not happy. And as a merchant on a Shopify or something, they can go out and have access to maybe 500 other partner options in that same category. So 2022 says, refresh, look at the partner imperative. Who's helping you run your business? What value are you bringing? And should you try others? I think that's a big one. Another mega trend this wouldn't surprise you, Greg, but we're figuring out how the insurance proposition works, I think, is the social commerce, right? We've got a business, we've got an application on Shopify. We saw Shopify has done a lot in empowering small and even micro businesses to sell in socials, such as Instagram, TikTok. Looking at that as a new sales channel for 2022, I think is a must. I think those are two big items that every small and medium e-commerce merchant should have on their list of must-dos.
That's great. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for joining the show. For those listening, what's the best way for them to keep up with what you're doing?
I would look at upscapital.com. We've got a resources and blog page out there, and we are fairly active in social. So on LinkedIn and Twitter, we've got our own company handles, and then they can find me out in that same space as well.
Wonderful. Well, again, I'd like to thank Kiel Harkness, VP of Global Marketing and Development at UPS Capital, for joining the show. Thanks for listening to The Agile Brand with Greg Kielstrom. Talk with you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand with Greg Kielstrom podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.theagilebrand.show. To get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, visit my website at gregkielstrom.com. Until next week, stay agile.